On June 27, 2000, a 16-year-old lifeguard clocked in at Comins Pond, Massachusetts. Her towel, flip-flops, and insulin kit were left behind. Molly Bish was never seen alive again. Police had been warned about a suspicious man at Comins Pond the day before. Nothing was done.
This is the story of a warning ignored, an investigation that stalled, and a family that refused to let the world forget Molly Bish. Chapter 1. The Last Morning. Okay, let's dive right into this. We're taking you back to Tuesday, June 27, 2000, in the quiet, tight-knit community of Warren, Massachusetts, right at a local swimming hole known as Comins Pond. At the center of this tragedy is Molly Bish, and it's incredibly important to understand who Molly was. She was a deeply responsible, bright 16-year-old. She was an honor roll student, a varsity athlete, and she absolutely loved life. She was also diabetic, meaning she had to carry an insulin kit with her everywhere. On this specific morning, she had just started her 8th day working her summer job as a lifeguard, proudly following in her older brother's footsteps. Let's walk through the chillingly brief timeline of that morning. At right around 9 a.m., her mom, Maggie Bish, drops Molly off. And as Maggie pulled into the lot, she actually felt this lingering, uneasy feeling in her gut. But seeing some town workers dropping fresh sand on the beach, she figured it was safe to leave. By 9:58 a.m., Molly's at her specific lifeguard post. But by 10:20 a.m., when the first mothers and kids arrive for swimming lessons, Molly is gone. In a window of roughly 20 minutes, she vanished without a trace. And the scene left behind? It just completely deepens the mystery. Her towel was still draped right over her folding chair. Her backpack, her water bottle, and, critically, her insulin kit and her flip-flops were left totally undisturbed. Molly hated walking barefoot in the dirt. She would never voluntarily leave without her shoes. Plus, there were absolutely zero signs of a struggle in the sand. So you have to ask, how does a strong, athletic swimmer vanish into thin air in a matter of minutes? Chapter 2, The Warning Ignored. That question brings us to a much darker reality, because this crime absolutely did not happen in a vacuum. The most haunting aspect of this entire case is what happened exactly one day prior. On the morning of June 26th, Maggie Bish dropped Molly off, and as she pulled into the isolated lot at Comins Pond, she saw a highly suspicious man sitting in a white sedan. He was a white male, maybe 45 to 55, with salt and pepper hair and a thick mustache, just staring intently. Maggie specifically remembered his distinctive smoking habit. He held his cigarette with straight fingers in a memorable, almost feminine way. He gave off such a deeply unsettling vibe that Maggie actually waited in her car for 20 whole minutes until he finally drove away. Here is the true tragedy of the situation. The threat had been explicitly identified. Maggie immediately reported this terrifying encounter to the police. Witnesses even reported seeing a similar white car near the pond on the morning of the 27th. But the response? Nothing. No proactive measures were taken to secure the isolated pond or check the area before a 16-year-old girl began her shift all alone. The warning was entirely ignored. One warning, one day, one chance. Not taken. Chapter 3, The Search. In the wake of this catastrophic systemic failure, the burden of finding Molly fell heavily on the community, and most intensely on her mother, Maggie Bish, who became the relentless central figure in this fight. What followed was an agonizing 3-year wait. The family held out hope for so long. But in the fall of 2002, a local hunter stumbled upon a weather-beaten blue bathing suit in the densely wooded terrain of Whiskey Hill in the Sturbridge-Palmer area. It was Molly's suit. Months later, on June 9, 2003, investigators grid-searched the area and officially recovered Molly's remains. 267 pieces of evidence. Today, there are exactly 267 pieces of physical evidence currently stored away, being meticulously evaluated by investigators at the State Crime Lab. 7,680 days. It's been over 7,680 days of waiting for answers. That is the immense, unimaginable duration of the Bish family's suffering without justice. But the fight isn't over. Despite the decades that have passed, new DNA testing is currently ongoing. Investigators are utilizing modern technological advancements and even artificial intelligence trying to find a breakthrough. They're actively retesting things like that recovered bathing suit and discarded cigarette butts, just hoping science finally catches up to the killer. Chapter 4, The Suspect. Over the years, police have looked at several people, but one prime suspect continues to cast a very dark shadow over this explainer. The suspect was interviewed and released. What they missed will make you question everything. Let's break down the profile of Rodney Stanger. Stanger was a local resident with a violent history and a convicted sex offender. But what's truly chilling are the specifics of his life back in the year 2000. He had access to a white car that closely matched the exact warning Molly Bish provided. Plus, he was an avid outdoorsman who routinely fished at Comins Pond and was known to hunt in the very same hard-to-reach woods of Whiskey Hill, where Molly's remains were found. And this brilliantly illustrates just how perfectly Stanger's background matches the circumstantial evidence of the crime. The vehicle is a match. The location? Someone had to intimately know that steep, isolated terrain on Whiskey Hill to navigate it, and Stanger knew it like the back of his hand. While his DNA has been examined without a publicly confirmed match yet, the behavioral and geographical overlaps are practically impossible to ignore. Stanger was interviewed early on, but he just slipped right through the cracks. The deeply frustrating reality is this. Stanger moved to Florida shortly after Molly vanished. In 2008, he murdered his girlfriend down there. He was sent to prison, where he ultimately died in 2010 for those unrelated crimes. He was never charged for Molly Bish's murder, leaving her family without a trial and without closure. Chapter 5. The Legacy. In the face of unimaginable grief and a system that totally failed to protect their daughter, Maggie Bish refused to let the world forget Molly. The family turned their pain into profound action. They founded the Molly Bish Foundation, and their tireless advocacy led directly to the passage of the Molly Bish Act. This legislation fundamentally revolutionized how the state of Massachusetts responds to missing children. They implemented sweeping changes to ensure that brushed-off warnings and unsecured crime scenes would never happen to another family again. Molly deserved protection. The system had the chance. It didn't take it. A warning was reported the day before Molly Bish disappeared. Police were told nothing was done. Rodney Stanger died in prison for different crimes, never charged for Molly's murder. If that warning had been taken seriously, would Molly Bish still be alive today? Drop your theory below.